Welcome back to another episode in the Cozy Kitchen. The holidays are here. They're right around the corner. And this time of year, I know people are always scrambling. What am I going to bring? I'm going to see family. What am I going to talk about? All these things. Let them talk about this dish right here. This is the dish, I'm telling you, to bring to your Thanksgiving, your Friendsgiving, and let the people talk. Today, we're making roasted Brussels sprouts with butternut squash, bacon, and roasted corn in a pesto. Guys, I get it. The name is long. The name is something that we can work with together. In fact, if you have a better name for this dish, add it in the comments section. Before we go on to, thank you for tuning in. If you have not already done so, pause the video. Just scroll down just a little bit. Hit that subscribe button, guys. I would really appreciate it. Yes, it's the holiday season, but this is something that you can eat all year long. I love Brussels sprouts. They're one of my favorite dishes to make. There's so many different ways that you can kind of jazz them up. Why I like this dish in particular, it brings a lot of different fall elements into one cohesive dish. It's almost like a warm roasted Brussels sprout salad. Rather than dressing, we are making a pesto. Not just any pesto, a roasted garlic pesto. Right now, what I did is I roasted some garlic. I chopped off the top of one garlic bulb and then sprinkled it with a little bit of kosher salt, drizzled it with a little bit of olive oil, wrapped it in some tin foil, put that in the oven, 400 degrees for about 35 minutes or so. We're gonna then take that out and make a pesto. So the very first thing you're gonna wanna do is make sure that that garlic is roasting in the oven because we're gonna make the pesto. In the meantime, what we can do is start working on our Brussels sprouts. I have 1 pound of washed Brussels sprouts right here on my cutting board. What we wanna do is remove the outer skin layer. Just chop off the very top and then slice it down the middle. We're then gonna put them on an oven-safe tray. Then once we slice the Brussels sprouts in half, we're gonna put the Brussels sprouts onto the tray. We're gonna hit them with a little bit of kosher salt, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of olive oil, toss them all together, and then make sure that that sliced side is facing up because I find that they get a little bit more crispy in the oven. That tray is gonna go in the oven. My roasted garlic that's been in the oven is about to come out. Before we take it out, we're gonna get the other ingredients ready for our pesto. I have 2 cups of fresh basil. You can keep the stems on the basil. The stems actually have just as much flavor. We're gonna throw the 2 cups of fresh basil into the blender. I have a half a cup of raw walnuts that we're gonna throw in with the 2 cups of basil. To the basil and the walnuts, I'm gonna add 1/4 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. To the pesto, we're also going to be adding the juice of 1 lemon. Just get the juices kind of flowing in the lemon. You can just put it on your cutting board and push it down while moving that lemon around just 3 or 4 times. Then we're going to slice the lemon in half. I always squeeze my lemons right over my other hand, catching any of the seeds, right? And then you can just discard the seeds and keep going. Our garlic is about to come out of the oven. We're gonna add the garlic in with the rest of the ingredients in here and get our pesto ready. This roasted garlic just came out of the oven. It's piping hot still. I'm burning my hand a little bit, but it's all for you. The garlic has started to brown a little bit, and this is exactly what we want. This garlic is gonna add a nice depth to the pesto. We're just gonna hold the garlic upside down over the pesto and squeeze, and you'll notice how the garlic cloves have caramelized and softened, and they just kind of pop right out into the blender. Roasted garlic, my basil, my lemon, my Parmesan, my walnuts, they're all here in the blender. We've already hit it with a little pinch of kosher salt. Put it at a low speed and add olive oil in as you go. We're gonna then turn up the speed. So I have 1 cup of extra virgin olive oil here. Turn this blender on low, the lowest speed that it can go. And as we turn it on and those ingredients start to break up, we're slowly gonna add the olive oil into the blender to continue to smooth out those ingredients. My pesto is broken up. The pesto has a nice light color. Just gonna give it a little try. Exactly how we want it. Now that the pesto is ready, we can just put the pesto aside. Boom. So in addition to these roasted Brussels sprouts, we're also going to roast some butternut squash and some corn kernels. If you can, a really nice time-saving hack is just to buy butternut squash that's already been sliced and cubed. I have a half a pound of butternut squash here. To the butternut squash, we're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of rubbed sage, as well as 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Once we have the sage and the nutmeg in with the butternut squash, hit it with just a little sprinkle of kosher salt, a little bit of olive oil, toss that all together, and then you can put that on the tray. We'll get the corn ready, put that corn on the tray to join the butternut squash, put those trays in the oven, and we'll get everything roasting at the same time. So I have my corn here. I used a half of a 15-ounce can of corn. I'm just gonna hit this corn with a little sprinkle of kosher salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of smoked paprika, mix that with some olive oil, and put the corn on the tray with the butternut squash, then put them in the oven. We are about to bring in the bacon into this dish. I have 3 pieces of thick applewood smoked bacon sliced up into bite-sized pieces. We're gonna throw that into our saute pan that's over medium-high heat and get that going. So that bacon is sizzling. Now we're just gonna take 1 shallot. We're gonna slice it up, throw it into that pan once the bacon comes out. We're just gonna slice off the top and then slice it into little strips. Once the bacon comes out of that saute pan, we're gonna throw that sliced shallot into the pan so it can absorb all those nice bacon flavors. So my bacon's sizzling. I have my shallot ready to go. And while we wait for that bacon to get crispy, let's chop up some walnuts. I have about a handful of those raw walnuts that we use for the pesto. We're just gonna give them a really nice rough chop, and then we're gonna sprinkle them right on top at the very end once the dish comes together. Those Brussels sprouts have been in the oven at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. I'm about to take them out and toss them with a little bit of maple syrup before putting them back in and finishing it off. I have my Brussels sprouts here. They've been in the oven for about 25 minutes. We're just gonna add about a tablespoon of maple syrup right to the Brussels sprouts and toss them before we put them back into the oven and finish them off. Once you hit them with that maple syrup, give them a little toss with the spoon. At this point, it's okay if not all of them are faced upright. We're just gonna put them back in for another 10 minutes before we take them out and mix all the ingredients together. Once your Brussels sprouts are mixed with that maple syrup, take your corn and your butternut squash out and just give them a little toss as well. You just want to make sure that things are roasting evenly. So just give them a little toss with the spoon, and then we're going to put them right back into the oven to finish them off with the Brussels sprouts. My bacon has got nice and crispy. We want that fat that's come out from the bacon to stay in the pan. So what we're going to do is take our bacon out of the pan with a slotted spoon and put it in a small bowl. We're just going to set that aside and immediately throw in our shallots into that saute pan. We want to keep the heat at medium high. If you have to add a little bit of olive oil, that's completely fine. Now that those shallots have caramelized, we're gonna throw in those walnuts that we just chopped up, toss them in with the shallots and the bacon fat and all that, take it off the heat, set it aside, and that's gonna be the finishing touch at the very end of the dish. 2 final things that you're gonna need once this dish comes together. We're gonna want 1 lemon and some grated Parmesan. We're gonna zest the lemon onto the vegetables once they come out. My maple roasted Brussels sprouts just came out of the oven. Into a bowl, we're just gonna add the roasted Brussels sprouts right in. To that same bowl with the Brussels sprouts, we're gonna add in our crispy bacon. We're then going to add in 1/3 of the pesto mixture that we made before that's been waiting for us. So I have about 1/3 of the pesto here in the bowl with the Brussels sprouts and the bacon. We're just going to give that a nice toss with the spoon and get that all nice and marinated with the pesto. My roasted butternut squash and corn also just came out of the oven. The corn is nice and crispy. The butternut squash is nice and tender. We're going to add these to the mixture with the Brussels sprouts, bacon, and pesto. My roasted butternut squash and corn are in the bowl with the Brussels sprouts, the bacon, the pesto. We're going to take our lemon now and just zest our lemon. We're only going to add about 1/4 of the lemon, right? We're not going to use the whole lemon. We're just going to add a little bit just to brighten it up. From there, we're going to add in some additional pesto. How much pesto you add is completely up to you. I would suggest adding a little bit as you go. If anything, you're going to have some extra pesto that you can use. Having additional pesto is also nice because people can always add more if they want more, or if you have bread or something that you're serving as well. Obviously, this pesto would go very well with that. So I have my lemon zest. I just added some additional pesto. Now I'm ready to serve this. We're going to top this with a little sprinkle of Parmesan and then those shallots and nuts. And there we have it, guys. We're ready to go. Roasted maple Brussels sprouts with bacon, pesto, butternut squash, corn. I have the crispy shallots on top, the nuts, the Parmesan, that little bit of lemon zest that brightens it all up, all coming together right here. These are some amped up roasted Brussels sprouts, all right? Get a good bite. There's so many different flavors going on in this dish, but it all works so well together. Go try it for yourself, guys. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. You can do so right at the bottom. Be sure to like this video if you like it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This dish is another level. People are gonna love it. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna go devour this.